My brother was in far tinged with a certain job Kyushu. This is if it is not if there is any chance of that. Easily was a man who does not hear the freedom to see the face of the parents. My sister is married to the other countries. This is also in time of emergency. It was not a woman be summoned Oizaredo. I have the brother and sister 3 people. The most convenient was only me that is still a student, that I have thrown out the work tasks of good with street school of the mother. The fact that came back before the break was the great satisfaction to my father. It's a sorry is rested school sick of Koreshiki. Should not because what you write so much great many letters mom. My father was saying in the mouth, not just saying this, let me raise the floor that has been laid so far. It showed the usual such as healthy. I do not go and do a very rash also turn reverse. I of this attention father received pleasantly unlikely but very lightly. What all right if it was even Yojin this in as usual. In fact my father gave color okay. Come and go freely in the house. To be cut even breathe. I did not feel dizzy. Although only just was very worse than the average person complexion. This because also not a symptom started now. We did not bear in exceptional mind it. I thanked the borrowing writing a letter to the teacher. I declined and as me wait until then because to bring in when the new year Tokyo. Then it is not the ugly as I thought of the condition of the father. Things for the time being, if this minute peace of mind. Dizziness also nausea also had been chosen to write. Such is none of it. Finally, the cold of the teacher was also added with a word of sympathy. Since I was looking at the actual lightly the cold of the teacher. I did not expect to never answer the teacher when you put that letter. While in rumors of his father and mother and teacher after issuing. It was much to imagine the teacher of the study. You raise go also have in the mushroom when the next time go to Tokyo. Yeah, but I wonder if eat the mystery shiitake mushrooms the teacher has dried. Well it is not but there will not be separate from asshole. It was strange to think in conjunction with shiitake mushrooms and teachers. When the teacher of the reply came, I was a little surprised, especially when the contents did not include the special requirements. I was surprised. Teacher just in kindness mutual agreement. I thought I was me to write a reply. When I think so, the simple single letter has become very much a joy to me. Although this is I as the first of the letter received from the teacher there was no difference. While round-trip Shoshin it appears that there was often between the first and say and teacher. I never want a little decline that it is not the fact. I have not only got only 2 copies of the letter to the lifetime of the teacher. In this simple henshosei one mail that is now Ichitsu after a particularly I before dying teacher, those very long written in addressed. My father is the nature of the disease. Since it must refrain from the movement, from raising the floor, did not come out to most outdoors. But once there it was down to the weather a very calm day in the afternoon garden. That time is concerned about the event. I was attached to the near depulso. I worried even as trying to get put his hand to his shoulder. My father did not respond laughing. 23. I went to the Masaru crosscut his boring father of the other party. Because the lazy nature both of whom, while heading Kotatsu, put the board to the top of the tower. Each time you moved a piece. Was that such issues bother the hand from the bottom of Kakebuden? Sometimes and the lost captured pieces were in without knowing with both until the coming of the next game. It mother is out to find from the ashes. Was also ridiculous that the increased scissors with tongs on board is too high that it is go, because the legs have arrived, but not strike the top of the Kotatsu. Masaru crosscut, and come to there bring me the good eye. Thus, because makes easier, lazy person. Let's do another best. My father said that trying to do always the other best when you win. Even when you lose habit that, when trying to do another best in short. Even if win or lose. When Kotatsu was a man who wants to plug the Hitago. Since the unusual at first, but entertainment was blurring the retirement gave also considerable interest to me. is accompanied by a little time day goes. Young, my energy is no longer satisfied with this much such stimulation. I stretched a fist holding the golden kyosha to the top of the head, and sometimes drastic yawn. I was thinking of Tokyo, then pervade the back of the blood of the heart. I heard the beating to continue out and activities. The sound of wonder and even the beats from subtle state of consciousness there felt like being strengthened in the teacher of force. I am out of the heart, as seen by comparing the father and teacher. If you look, both from the public, it was a quiet man enough not know whether dead or alive, which was also zero speaking from the viewpoint that found in the other. And yet, my father wants to insert this Hatago as, to me, was unsatisfactory as a partner of mere entertainment. Former teacher that you did not the traffic for the sake of entertainment is more than familiar. Leaving the pleasure of dating had an impact on my head someday. Just because it's too cold for that head. I want to again say to the chest, even though the teacher of force some of the meat is dig, to say that the life of the teacher some of the blood is flowing. To me at that time it appeared to be not a little too exaggerated. My father is my real father. Teacher also, needless to say, the fact obvious that it is someone else's read. Try side by side in front of the eye deliberately, to as if it were the first time, also discovered a large truth, surprised. Back and forth, when I begin to know to graduation, I gradually also, to the eye of a father or mother was rare until now, become obsolete. I think this would be mood for anyone to go to, such as the country's summer vacation experience uniformly, so as not to put even below about 1 week of the current. To be pampered hospitality, and get past ruler is the pass. It is after coming soon cool family of heat, in which at length will be poured to the treated are often such as those that may be even naku if there. I also passed the mountain pass during their stay. Each time you go back to the Tapai country, returned with a strange place that do not know to mother to father from Tokyo, when referred to in the old days, to bring home to the Christian smell of Confucian. I got to that home was not in harmony with mother with father. Of course I was hiding it, but because those originally arrived to learn, even if I thought my with the issue, it remained in the eye of the father and mother someday. I was no longer with interesting. Now I want to go back quickly to Tokyo. Father of the disease remains fortunately status quo. Did not appear seem to advance towards a little bad. Whither led to considerable doctor all the way from far away just to be sure. Still even asked them to examination carefully. Abnormality other than that I know was not observed. I decided to stand the country shortly before the run out of the winter break. If out is referred to as a stand, humanity intended strange. Father and mother were also opposed. The longer go back paddle, does not it still early, said the mother went. Still 4, I wonder in time can I have 5 days, said his father had said. I did not move the day of the departure of their unusual. 24. When I returned to Tokyo, Mitsukazuri had been taken down sometime. The town is left to blow a cold wind. There was no economy was cryptic New Year of them or also referred to as this look anywhere. I went to immediately return the money to one of the teacher. Examples Shiitake also took incidentally, but it's because it is a little strange to put out. But my mother refused bother and told me to give this to the front of the wife. Shiitake mushrooms had been placed in a new confectionery fold. Wife thanked the te yasushi is. When the stand to the next room, look with that occasion, whether I was surprised a lighter. I heard, what of your candy when absorbing it? His wife comes to acquainted. He showed the heart seems extremely bland small subjected to such a place. The illness of his father both of whom, various into me by repeating the question of Kakinen. Teacher said such a thing, listening to the more receptor, but does not seem to be the fact that if now is now, does not go with the disease is not careful compelling because it is sick. The teacher knew a lot of things that do not I know about disease of the kidney, while not suffering from the disease on their own. is a feature of the air unabashedly not notices that disease. Some officers that I knew is, but at last was done with it. I was totally to die the way. Such is a lie. It because I'm free time is also a much nanimo not after all the wife was sleeping near to the nurse. To say a little painful in the middle of the night. Law that caused the wife. Yokoru morning I was dead already. Moreover, wife is sleeping husband and because I'm you've been thinking only in. I became suddenly anxiety that has been optimistic inclined until now. Will also become so much my father. Along with I do not say as well. The doctor is what's called. The doctor I do that does not go away possibly. But I also called my there's a worry at the time being. It would be good as it. If the doctor says so. But the fact of people who are not aware of my talk now. Yet it is because I'm a fairly rough military personnel. I was somewhat relieved, teacher, that my changes had been seen as this, then I added this. But man is white sick white to health. It is brittle either way. Because time does not necessarily also not the kind of death sit in any possible. Teacher also do out you think such a thing. How much strong of even I do not sometimes do not think altogether bad. Shadow of a smile was visible to the mouth of the teacher. Do you is not in there are people who die and often effortlessly. Naturally. Then there will be people who die while I think Jack Robinson. Unnatural violence. What is unnatural violence? But somehow it does not know to me. People who commit suicide will use everyone unnatural violence. Then also killed from being, it is thanks to the still unnatural violence. Those who killed did not at all thinking. I see it speaking likely. That day was back in it. It did not become so much bitter father of illness from the back. Token naturally die made by the teacher. A word or something die in unnatural violence. Only gave a shallow impression of the place as long as after did not leave any of sticking to my head. I am a graduate thesis that retracted the hand as gonna to several times hand until now. Was remembered and must be started to write more and more to this equation. 25. I supposed to graduate in June of that year. Had assuming that you did not all means finished writing this article in full in April Narutadashi Street. 2. 3. When viewed in account the time date surplus to fold 4 in a finger. I could not believe the little his courage. Others are misu the material from previous abuses. With a reservoir notes. To look busy in another's eyes. I just had still not put your hands on anything. To me there was only decided that trying to do a lot once formal is just a year. I began to do with the decision. Thus it became stuck immediately. Drawing a big problem in the sky up to now. Is I that framework only was thinking too much is almost canup. It began to trouble suppressing his head. I was small it from the papers of the problem. Then in order to save the trouble to systematically summarized the idea was elaborated. Just side-by-side material that is in the book. It was decided to add a significant conclusion little. I selected issues was close specialized and nepotism of the teacher. When I asked the opinion of the teacher once for its selection, teacher said that would be good. Dismay and Kimmy was I. And went immediately to the place of the teacher. Heard my reference books that must be read. Teacher knowledge of as long as they know their own. Willing on that gave me the need for books. 2. Was said that I will let you borrow 3 books. But the teacher did not try to toro to the responsibility to teach Gomo me in this regard. Because these days is not so much read the book. I do not know new things. If you heard the teacher of the school would be good. Teacher was temporary emergency avid reader. But if then somehow, and seem interested in this area as before is no longer work. That there is some of that was ever heard from his wife. I remembered suddenly at that time. I have to despite the paper. Open the mouth without knowing why. Teacher, why do you not be interested in books like the original? I do not have why mean that. That would because I think that Nasa Araku also read how much this from it. Then, we're there yet? Although not a reason enough to say that there still. It is before, and out to the front of people. But something rules was bad as shame and not know or heard in person. Is the fact that these days do not know. Because what began not appear to be less of a shame, but with unreasonable also will was no longer out energetic that I will read a book. The Ioikon speaking well early. Teacher of words was rather calm. Just was not tinged with people of bitterness toward the back to the world. It did not have much of a response to me. I instead do not think also that Ioikon a teacher returned without impressed also with the great. I suffered with red eyes like a psychotic who heard Itara in most papers from it. I have 1 year for a friend who graduated before. Was or try to listen to the various state. It was said to have to make do finally with Stephen only attached to the office in the car on the day of one person deadline of them, because the other one person took to Gorashi about 15 minutes to 5 o'clock. The place was about to be put in danger bounds. Was said to have asked to accept at last in favor of the chief professor. I have laid the courage together with feel the anxiety. It worked as long as the subsequent of Seiken in front of the desk every day. Otherwise, entered the dim archive. Was Mimawashi the here and there of the high bookshelf. My eyes were foraging gold character of the spine, such as when the dilettante is digging antique. Cold wind dipped in plum bloom is gradually, went further the direction to the south. If it goes by one partition. Cherry rumors began to hear the tidbit my ear. But I saw only the front like a workhorse. Was shot whip in the paper. I have finally come April late. Barely up to write up things as planned. Did not cross the threshold of the teacher. 26. I was of the now free too. Was the early summer season to begin growth so hazy that unawares blue leaves on branches scattered. The double cherry. I have the heart of a bird that escaped the cage. While overlooking the wide heaven and earth in a glance, was out freely rainbow. I went to immediately teacher's house. On top of the branches darkened the fence of the trifoliate orange, or blowing in the bud, such as burns, from withered stem of the pomegranate. Shiny correct leaves of brown as to or not to softness likely reflects the sunlight. The way people might attracted the eye. I remember rarity. Such as seen for the first time such a thing is born. The teacher looked at my face joyful. Such as the other papers did you tidy? It is fine. I finished finally thanks. It is not possible anymore to anything. In fact at that time I already Yui Ryo all of the work to be done of their own. Was in radiant mood. Such as maybe playing in the future ahead is arrogant. I had the satisfaction with enough confidence against his paper wrote, I am in front of the teacher. Was frequently chocho its contents. Teacher in the usual tone. Or, I see, but told me to say or, really? Quote, more criticism was not a little also added. I have rather than not enough. It was a feeling of somewhat anticlimactic. But that day my energy had vivid enough to attempt to counterattack in the attitude of the teacher. That looks is vacillation. In a large nature I am a blue resuscitation wax. Tried to saswida so the teacher, quote, is a good mood let's walk to the teacher somewhere and go out very much. Where? I did not care anywhere. But the teacher is accompanied wanted out to the suburbs. After 1 hour, the teacher and I away as intended city. Village with a quiet place indistinguishable from both the town addressed also walked without. I rang the tricks taken lawn whistle the young tender leaves from fence of Konami. With the Kagoshima people who are your friends. I learned to learn naturally while imitating the people. It was good to play the things that this Shiba few. When I continued to blow good it, teacher walked facing elsewhere in the indifference. Before long narrow road under the Wengyu was slightly elevated one poised as was translocating Chainin. Young leaves is opened, because what people garden in the placard was nailed to the pillars of the gate. It could not immediately a residence of the individual. Teacher looking at the inlet and doodling turned up, such as do let's go. I answered immediately. I am a gardener. I left there was a house and through the implantable climbed to the back in one swell. A kahana was out of shoji could not see even the shadow of a person is deserted. Goldfish that just are kept in a large pot that was laid in front of the house was moving. It's quiet. I wonder maybe entered without expressly stated to the contrary. I would not mind. It also advanced toward the back. But there is also empty could not see. Azalea was blooming as burning. Teacher pointing to the tall of reddish yellow in them. Such as this would be Hiroshima. Peony was also planted in 10 square meters so one side. But you still wearing the flower does not come season did not have one. The peony, hot the teacher on things like bench that was old in the near slept and Nari sprawled. I was smoking a tobacco sat down towards its extra end. The teacher was looking at the sky, such as toru blue translucent. I had been fascinated by the color of young leaves to wrap me. Seen well the color of young leaves was different each time. There was no one even those wearing the branches of the same color in the trees of the same maple. Teacher of the hat that had been covered with throw on top of thin cedar seedlings fell blowing in the wind. 27. I took up immediately the hat. I called the teacher while playing with a nail the red clay that have arrived here and there. Teacher hat fell. Thank you. Teacher received it to cause half of the body. Remains of the attitude that does not messy as well as sleep is also to take place. Heard me that strange. But suddenly, do you property is definitely in your house? I do not if enough say that there is. How much there is the well? It seems rude, but how much I in-law mountains and farmland is a little. Would you not like something gold? The teacher of my house economy was multiplied by the question seems to question this was the first time. With respect to Karashimuki of my people are still teacher. Had never nothing heard. Beginning became a teacher and acquaintances. I doubted whether the teacher is playing why. Since then the suspicion is constantly did not leave my chest but I was ahead at any time thought. Just as rudely to bring up in front of the teacher such a blatant problem. My heart that had rested eyes tired by the color of young leaves. Touched by chance also to the suspicion. The teacher what about? How much do you Irasharo with the property? Do I look a property home? The teacher had a rather plainly dressed from hero. And my wife was a small number of people. Therefore housing also was never widely. But it materially rich of its life. Was evident even in my eye that does not incorporated enter the inner ring. In short, even the life of the teacher cannot say with luxury. Was not a non-resilient truncated adajike naku. I said, would be so. Well that much gold there is. But you do not have a never property house. Property house if is built in a bigger house. At this time, the teacher up occurred, but lacked the cross-legged on top of the bench. Began to draw an end a good way. A kind of circle to the top of the ground in the previous bamboo cane. When it is done, now it stood straight to pierce the stick. Even this original my property house but I, teacher of words half was like a monologue. I was with silence that so impaired go at immediately after. Even this I originally I'm a property house. You, the teacher was referred to as, and smiled a look at my face then. I did not answer anything still, but rather it was not answered in the upset method. Then the teacher was also transferred the problem to the other. Sick of your father is now if then. I did not know even what the new year after the illness of his father. Simple letter that comes along with the exchange who sent a monthly countries. Was the Soseki of the father as an example. Complained of illness did not Kentora most of them. Moreover typeface was also sure. An example seen in this kind of sick person was not a little also. Disturbs the carry of the brush. It does not come anything said, will do another good. It's fine if you like but disease is it as disease. I wonder if it is indeed useless. But would you have each other have for the time being? We do not come to anything said. Is that so? I listened to the property of the teacher is out of my or asked my father's illness. Ordinary discourse that street eat the remains floating on the chest. I have heard I think ordinary discourse it was. However, There was a big meaning to tie both to the bottom of the words of the teacher. Does not have the teacher's own experience. I did not have supposed that, of course. Notice in there. 28. If there is a property in one of you. I think I do if you do not ask with a good settlement to one of the now. But it's none of your business. While Mr. Dad glib of get things got properly, why do not you to put so? After that there is any chance of that happens the most troublesome because it is the property of the problem. Quote, yeah, I did not pay much attention to the words of the teacher. What is the worry about that in my home? Not only to me, white mother, white father. I believed that there is no one person of that it says that on the teacher. As a teacher, I was a little surprised too practical. But there is respect of hereow for the elders was to quiet me. If from your father is deceased, to the wording, such as applied in anticipation of the Pearl River me forgiveness after touching care from now. But because human beings is something to die, no matter how glib, when to die I because those that do not know. Quote, mouth care of the teacher was unusual. Niga nigashika. I have excuses. No, not at all would care about such a thing. Teacher and I did what people are your brothers was heard. Teacher or heard the number of people of my family on it. Or ask for the presence or absence of relatives. Was such question the state of the uncle and aunt? Then were these last. Is everyone good people? It seems not even those of about say that apart from bad human beings usually. Because it is the countries. Do you redneck is not why bad. I suffered in this suikyu. But the teacher did not have even afford to think the answer to me. Redneck than those of the city. Is what rather a long bad. Then, you are now, in the mystery your relatives. To say this, I was called and does not seem a bad person. But that bad man when the kind of man is in the world do you thinks. I like that the villain, such as placed in a mold must not be in the world. Hereow is do everyone a good man. I'm at least everyone of ordinary human beings. It, on the verge of emergency. Suddenly because it changed to a villain's terrible. So I cannot be careless. Quote, that the teacher did not even have the cut here. I also was going to say something here. Then the dog in the way back began barking suddenly. Teacher looked back behind and I are surprised. Near the sugane that from the side of the bench you're planting over to the rear. Stripe bamboo it was grown thick to hide the earth about 3 square meters. The dog was Genwa the face and the back on top of the low stripe bamboo. Stood actively barking. Small supply of about 10 to there was scolded the dog to come only Stephen. Small today was thanked by traveling around to the front of the teacher while wearing a black hat. That got the emblem. When uncle come into nobody paddle was not at home, I've heard. There was nobody. I sister and mama was in the person of selfishness. I see it would had. Oh, uncle, I today, I wish to come into being refused. The teacher I smile, put out the toad opening from the flashlight. It was held a Kupro nickel 5 cent in the hands of small today. Re should say so to mama. I should be a little rest here. Small today to Minagirha laughed to a really likely I showed nodded. Now am such a place that is a scout length. Small today refused this. Went down over a period of between Azalea to the bottom. Dogs chased after the high wrapped in small subjected to tail. Small today has much of Tashikako or 2, 3 people. This also went over to the person who went down in the scout length after a while. 29. Teacher of the discourse. For the dog in a small test. Since no longer be able to proceed until the end. I had not finally got its way. Property to care teacher, Kakinan of so-and-so was not at all to me at that time. As my nature. Also say, from my circumstances. I have at that time. We did not have room to bother to just in case of such interests. Think when this is also because I do not yet appear to the public. Also it would have yet even because it does not face actually in place. But for some reason the gold problem looked towards the far anyway, young me. I wanted to hear out of the teacher of the story to only one bottom. On the verge of human emergency. was the meaning of the word anyone would villain. The mere word did not have that do not know me even this much. But I wanted to know more about this clause. After the dog and Ginger has left, the garden of wide young leaves went back to the quiet of the late again. Then I had to not move for a while like a man that has been translocated, chained in silence. Lovely color of the sky as time came gradually lost the light that tree in front of the eye is most likely was a maple. But the light green of young leaves blew as drip in the branches. It seemed to go become increasingly dark. Distant traffic go pulling a cart, the sound was heard a rumbling. I imagine that go out that the man of the village even to the fair put or something wakey. When the teacher heard the sound, I got up from suddenly meditation like people who blow back the called breath. The other. Let's go back soon. Seems a weeded it has been a long time. While you are still doing onkenes, I'm going to imperceptibly late. The back of the teacher, after sleeping in supine on top of the earlier bench, had full arrived. I flicked it with both hands. Thank you. Do not you palm and fat caked. We clean fallen. This coat ism only just left over with CGN. So go back pollute indiscriminately. I from being scolded by his wife. Thank you. It also came to the front of the house that doodling is in the middle of the hill. To no one in sight creepy worage when entering. Our top san. 15. 6 of the daughter to the other party. Had wound the yarn to the bobbin. 2 people from the side of the big fish bowl. Was greeted as very much was a bother you. After your top san that returned the courtesy, no die. Do not do well I say anyway. Think the Kupro nickel was doing while I go small today. 2 out of the Kataguchi, the 3, when I came down, I finally cut the mouth towards the teacher. Just I was told the teacher. It means that human beings anyone am going to be in the villain on the verge of emergency. Is there does that mean? To say that meaning, deep meaning it does not have. That I'm a fact. I'm not a reason. It is not permissible in fact. But want to do my ask. I sense that the verge of emergency. Do you refer to the case what kind of? The teacher began to laugh. As if now that only the timing. In the wind. Such as there is no hurry I to explain another eagerly. Looking at the gold of you. Gold to become immediately villain in any gentleman. I can answer the teacher did not clog too mediocre. Teacher is not right in tone. I was also a feeling of anticlimactic. I began to walk quickly and clarified. Momentum teacher became a little lag often. The teacher spoke with, hey, later. Sky seen the Pearl River. What is the? Dat your mood is not immediately change in one my reply. Look at my face, which remained standing turned around to wait, the teacher was saying. 30. I thought Nikarashiku a teacher in the belly of that time. Even after walk side by side shoulder. Had not heard purpose that you want to hear their own. But it was the teacher. What had noticed it? Or do not have. Did not show a situation like Rue bound by my attitude. Because we carry by spoofing a pace that was paid with fell as usual silence often. I became a little resentment. Came so I wanted to put doing one teacher somehow I said. Teacher. What is it? I sense I may leave a little excitement while ago. When you were resting in the garden of that gardener. I have never seen rarely from the excitement of the teacher. A gas such as I see the unusual thing about today will. The teacher did not immediately reply. I thought even as it was a response. The basis was felt as out. We decided to not say after from helped. Then the teacher went by suddenly to the edge of the road. Then under the clean trimmed hedges was a piss roll up the hem. I was standing there idly while the teacher plus the use. High in politeness. The teacher began to also walk to say this. I was finally abandoned that talk down the teacher. Our pass road is gradually became busy. Slopes and plains of the wide Hata looked here and there until now. Has been equipped with left and right of the row of houses so that it does not enter at all into the eye. Nevertheless, such as in the corner of some places residential land, or enmeshed the vine of peas and bamboo. and is quiet in view of foreign domesticated enclosure chickens in wire mesh. Job to return from the market went past each other without partition. These kind of things in all the time 10 strikeouts are the care I've dropped pretend the problem that was in the chest until a little while ago to somewhere. When the teacher was suddenly turning back to there, I was actually forget it? What I looked like I was excitement so much while ago. I do not have as much say so, a little. No visible maybe the actual. The cause of got to excitement I got to excitement surely say that the property but do not know it. Looks if you in. I now very vindictive man of you because people the humiliation or damage were received from. Even after 10 years because I do not forget even after 2 decades. Quote, teacher of the word had been in the original note excitement. But I was surprised. It was never in its tone. Rather, the words of the teachers were those that sense that appeal to my ear. From the mouth of the teacher to listen to such a confession was not entirely surprising. Differences squid for me also. I as a feature of the nature of the teacher. Did not even this kind of obsession force that was still ever imagine. I believed that more weak person a teacher than in the weak high treatment. It had put the roots of my Nitsuka Shimi. I became small in front of this word, which was to try to poke a little shield to the teacher in a temporary mood. The teacher said this. I was deceived by the other, and I was deceived from those of relatives who followed the blood. I never do not forget it. They seemed to have a good man in front of my father. Father dying and I was turned into forgiveness hard Fudokugi Hansoon. I'll be through his burden from the time of the small subjected to humiliation and damages received from them until it has probably die piggybacked until today. Because I cannot forget it until his death. But I am actually doing that more than revenge for individuals and still or without a vengeance. I think I'm not just hate them. They but what human beings that are representative. He was remembered generally be hate. I think it's a lot. Quote, I could not get to even mouth the words of consolation. 31. Discourse of the day was also gone at last without development in this law. I have rather recoiled to the teacher's attitude. It did not occur field proceeding. 2 people rode the train from the outskirts of the city, but did not hear the little mouth in the car. It had to be parting soon and get off the train. Teacher when the breakup had also in radiant tone than normal. Such as it is the time that most are comfortable up to now in June. According to that might be the most comfortable in a lifetime. Saidashi Pearl River play with. I was Dasue hat laughing. At that time I saw the face of the teacher. The teacher is really where the heart doubted and I wonder hates general of human beings. The eyes, the mouth, was not anywhere in the pessimistic of the shadow also shines. I have issues on the thought. To confess that it has received a great benefit from the teacher. But for the same problem, as well as going to receive the benefits, it cannot receive must be said that there was mom. Teacher of the discourse was done in some cases non-committal. That day 2 people suburb of discourse that occurred during the even remained as an example of this non-committal on the back of my chest. Unreserved I confided in front of a certain time finally Teacher was laughing. I have said this. It does not matter the inconclusive and dull head. The habit is known properly. Is troubled not you say clearly. I do not to hide anything. You irish I hidden. You are the ones or something I thought toka opinion. My pastin is not that I'm thinking mess. Though I am a poor thinker. Ya hidden thoughtlessly people the idea that was put together in my head it does not. Because I do not need to hide. But when it comes must be monogatari or my past entirely in front of you. It will also become another problem. Quote, I do not as a separate issue appears. Because it is thought that the past has created a teacher. I am emphasis. Once you separate the 2 things, I will be free of little value. I am of the soul only given the blow that are not dolls. We cannot be satisfied. Quote, in the wind, such as teacher unstoppable. I saw my face. The hand that had the cigarettes is painting a little Chan. You're bold, but I'm serious. I want serious response to the lessons learned from life. Is can have jie, my past. The word jieku is, with a sudden horrible sound, struck my ear. I used to have now sitting in front of me, and was one of the sinner, and feel like not a teacher that is respected by the constant. The face of the teacher was Aoka. Teacher is, do you really is a really serious was reminded. I am a past of cause and effect, wearing skeptical people, so in fact have you even suspect, but not very much one is skeptical only you. You seem too simple to utaguru. I was standing before you die since the good alone, and I want to die to trust the other. Do you accustomed to that only one person? Can you become in? Are you serious from the bottom of the original? Quote, if my life is that serious, it is also serious that my say now. My voice was E-chan. The teacher said, all right, let's talk. I do not remain in the past. Would you like me to tell you? Instead, no, it does not matter. But my past I may not be so beneficial for you. Do not ask it as I might increase it from because I do not speak now. Please have in the going because I do not speak is naku come suitable of timing. Quote, I felt the pressure of a kind from the back to the boarding house. 32. As much as my thesis was to evaluate himself, apparently it did not appear well in the eyes of the professor. But I was passing mark as planned. Graduation ceremony of the day. I wore out the old winter clothes became musty from among the luggage. When arranged in the ceremony, none of this was also just all hot likely to face. I was embarrassed my body, which is sealed under the thick woolen cloth that does not pass through the wind. Hankechi having to hand out standing for a while became gasho. I became a naked back as soon as the need is the formula. Open the second floor window of the boarding house. From the hole of the round and round rolled diploma as telescope. Looked over the only of the world appear. Then I threw the diploma on top of the desk. Then become Inari sprawled. Was lying in the middle of the chamber. I have neglected my past while sleeping. In addition to imagine yourself in the future. Then made this diploma as with a one section standing in the meantime. Such as meaningful. Also it seemed a strange paper. Such as meaningless. I went invited to the feast to the evening teacher's house. This is not eaten elsewhere. The dinner of the day after graduating was a promise from before that dispense with the teacher of the table. To be continued. Thank you for your viewing. If you like please subscribe to the channel. I am very encouraged.